recording. I'm going to ask our friend Antulio to start the meeting today with a prayer. So, Antulio, thank you very much for doing that. Now to you.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. Good morning, everyone. So we can close our eyes if we wish, and let's keep our minds filled with good and elevated thoughts, and let's feel the presence of Jesus in our hearts. Being thankful for the opportunity to be here today with the purpose of learning a little bit more about the spiritual truths. Let's involve now in our best thoughts of love and light our guest, Suzana Simoes, who graciously accepted to be here today. With the help of God our Father, Jesus our Master, and the spiritual mentors of this group, let's ask permission to start our study of today. So be it.
Thank you very much, Antulio, for that. So, what I want to do next is welcome everyone and welcome our special guest here this morning. But just to recap what we're going to do, so we're going to have a talk this morning, which I'm going to talk about in a second. After that, we're going to have Ana Castro do our final prayer and irradiation. And after that, we're going to wrap up with Claudinha doing our announcements. So also remembering that today we have our youth students and instructors with us this morning. So welcome everyone. We're going to use the chat for any questions, and if there is time at the end of the meeting, we'll address the questions. If not, again, we're going to follow up on that. But what I wanted to do first is a very heartfelt welcome to our friend today, Suzana Simoes. So we'll do a little introduction. Suzana is a dear friend, and I'll speak for myself, but many share that with me. A very one of the most respected Spiritist workers in the U.S. and I would say the world. And it's an honor to have Suzana here with us. She's been a great friend for a long, long time, and she's been with us on our sunrise journey since the beginning, since 2017. So it's very special to have Suzana here with us. So Dr. Simoes spends her time between her professional work as a doctor of physical therapy, her family, and dissemination of Spiritism. Suzana has worked as a member of the Spiritist Federation of Florida and the United States Spiritist Federation. She's one of the founders of the Conscious Living Spiritist group in Miami, where she works primarily overseeing the work in English. She's an active speaker in the US and abroad. And today, Suzana is going to talk about maximizing happiness, taking a wise approach. I speak for myself. My level of happiness right now is at the maximum because I couldn't be happier to have you here with us this morning, Suzana. I think you are on mute, uh, but I will turn to you in a second. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here with us again.
Well, thank you, Edu. Good morning, everyone. I am also very happy to be here this morning. It's been a while since I have participated in any activity with this group that is very, very dear to my heart. And I was particularly excited about the invitation for today because I was told that some of the youth would be present. So I am conscious of that and would like this lecture to be a little bit less of a lecture, and perhaps we can have some interaction. Not that anyone should be forced to do so, but it just kind of allows for a little break here and there. And also, I think the most powerful way of learning is when we are actually engaged and really, really trying to reflect on the topic, and most importantly, how this topic is intertwined and what it means to our daily lives, because that's the beauty of spiritism. And for that matter, any religion, it's to use the concepts and the learning for empowerment and for to give us the opportunity to live lives that are filled with meaning and also happiness. So while we're going to talk about happiness, I think that, no matter where we are, who we are, um, what religion, what faith, culture, right? So this is a topic that is a common denominator for our humanity. Um, I believe we all trying to be happy, um, be as happy as we possibly can. So my first question, and if anyone wants to try to answer, that would be great. If anyone wants to write on the chat, I'm looking at it. Um, so what is happiness? When you think of happiness, right? What comes to mind, like immediately, like without giving you know, too much thought, what we would say happiness is? So is there anyone who would venture joy? Joy. Joy is also a sentiment, is a feeling, right? A feeling of joy. But what gives us joy? The color yellow. That's great. That's awesome. I wonder what happens when yellow is not around. Do we feel blue? And then we have peace. Peace is powerful. I would agree with that one. Not that I don't agree with the other ones, but I think that peace is very powerful. So, question would be, how do we achieve peace? Right? We're going to talk about that. And then is to be in path to what we want in life. And I would say, what is it that you want in life? How do you know in the right path? Peace in our hearts. So peace is winning so far. Living in the moment, mindfulness, being present. That's a great answer too. We could definitely expand on that. Duty accomplished. I love that one. I think that duty accomplished probably gives us the peace of mind that some of our participants also mentioned. So that's great. Great warm up. So next question is happiness achievable? Yes or no? Just give me some yes or no right there. Is happiness achievable? Is it possible? Yes. So yes is winning. Absolutely. I'm going to tweak this question a little bit. Is complete happiness achievable on this earth? Right here, right now? No, 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 no. Okay, so we are all in agreement with that as well. Not necessarily. Not really. No, not really. Okay. All right. So the consensus that I'm getting is yes, we can be happy, but not completely happy, and this is correct. One more question. So, do the things that make you happy today? Let's say you were 25, are the same things that made you happy 10 years ago when you were 15. And if you're 40, let's say when you were 25 and so forth, put 15, 20 years behind you. No. How come? Not at all. Yes and no. So, how come? Happiness is something that changes? It's not like an absolute concept. Absolutely not. Yes. So, some people say yes, some people say no. I think that question, priorities change. Great answer. Yes. You learn, you change. Right. So it is possible then, based on this theory, right, that in 20 years from now, we are going to be revisiting our answers of today, because hopefully 20 years from now, we are going to be we're going to have done some growth, maturity. So we'll be more mature, and perhaps our idea of happiness for today is not as absolute as we think. That's great. So that was it. Just a quick warm up. Thank you for participating and putting your answers out there. All right. So just, going back to starting with the spirits book, right? So Kardec asked these same questions in regards to happiness being possible to be achieved or not. And before I give the spirit's answers, I must read this answer from the chat. I don't love galinha pintadinha anymore. The blue chicken, I don't know how to spell in Portuguese. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So if there's any Americans who have no idea what galinha pintadinha is, a cartoon that makes kids very, very happy indeed. So that is a funny comment. Happiness becomes a lot of work. I'm too lazy to work on this. Fair enough. We will talk about that a little bit towards the end. So what the spirits tell us in question 920 is that when Kardec asks if complete happiness is possible, they're going to say that they're going to start by saying that that we live in a world of trial and expiation. So that's a pretty strong key of saying not really. Complete happiness is not really possible. But you know what they say as well? They say that we can actually mitigate the reasons that make us unhappy. So I really wanted to take a second to think about it. And so we have a very, very powerful tool in our hands. We can mitigate the amount of suffering that we experience. The question is, how can we do that? How can we mitigate the suffering? And in the Gospel, chapter 5, the spirits are gonna, because that's the thing with Kardec and the spirits. You'll find the same concept expanded, explore in the different works of the codification. So in the Gospel, chapter 5, Kardec is also going to say that the spirits are going to say to Kardec that, it's kind of difficult to find a wise man on this earth. A happy man is even more of a rarity. So whether you read in the Spirit's book or the Gospel, there is this agreement of ideas. So Kardec's like, okay, fine, fair enough. In a world where human beings are still very limited and there's so much unconsciousness and we make so many mistakes, right? It's impossible to be completely happy. But how about relative happiness? Can we achieve that? Can we be somewhat happy? And the spirits are going to start by saying that we are, for most part, the artisans of our own unhappiness. So, yes, it is possible, but they are telling us that we are creating our own unhappiness. I would like for someone to give me an example on how that can possibly be. How is it that we create our own happiness? One example. Let's see. Let's see if something comes up. That's a little bit more of a overthinking. Overthinking, yeah. Sometimes, I guess. Putting too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect. Absolutely. And that one is equivalent to lack of self-love. And also, it is the outcome of pride. When you want to be perfect in this respect to the time that it takes to actually travel the journey of perfection. Stress, thoughts, bad behaviors, perfectionism. Perfectionism, it seems like to be a topic. I will be doing a lecture about perfectionism because I am a perfectionist and I'm working on being less of a perfectionist because, as I was saying, it is going against God's plan for us. God planned for us to be perfectible and for perfection to be a journey, not a miraculous transformation of one moment to another. So every time that we are so hard on ourselves and we are pressing ourselves to the point that it's causing our own happiness, that means we are questioning God's plans for us. That means we are wanting to be more than we can actually be in a given moment. And then we're responsible for all we do, what we think, and being selfish and sometimes self-centered. I am going to make a small editing to this sentence. Self-centeredness is what characterizes our humanity. And I'm not saying that it is in the Spirit's book. I wish I could tell you which question, but what characterizes and what places us where we are today in this level of evolution is precisely because everything that we do is self-centered. So the spirits are going to say that even the goodness that we do, it's very, very, very rare to find on earth someone who's doing something that does not have underneath to some extent a level of self-centeredness. Okay, so I would just change being selfish and all the time being self-centered. So, okay, great answers. In chapter 5, the spirits do give us some ideas on how we create our own happiness. They say that it is the result of our character and behavior. And so they say that underneath character and behavior, there's pride, imprudence, and ambition. And they do give us some points, some important points. So they talk about, for example, disagreements. So a lot of times we enter into disagreements, into fights, into conflicts, because for us it's still more important that we are the correct ones than to do the work of like trying to solve a situation. We at times put our righteousness and our point of view over friendships, for instance, over relationships. To be right than to maintain, than to nurture a relationship, so to speak. Um, illnesses. So much of the illnesses that we experience come from a disrespect to our physical bodies, um, a disrespect to the limits that are actually present in our physical body. So, for example, very pretty simple example, but if you eat too much, God, who cares for you, actually put a limit to the size of your stomach and says, you know, and there's actually sensors that will cause pain. That's the way in which nature is telling you, listen, the limit is right here. There is a limit. If you respect this limit, you're going to be okay. You can enjoy this, but there is a limit that's being placed. That's how God educates us. There's many, many limits that the laws will impose in our lives. We can listen to the limits, or we can say, I really don't care. I'm just going to go for it, right? And then you're going to deal with the consequences. Now, those consequences were not planned prior to your incarnation. You creating on the go. Relationships, marriages. These are the examples that the spirits are giving us. Like that happens a lot of times where we rush into a relationship. And I say this to the young in age, to the young of heart, to all of us. And I say this with coming from my own experience. I married twice, the same person, by the way, and the first marriage was with 3 years of a relationship. The second marriage was with 12 years of relationship. So with 3 years of relationship, I would say, I love this person. With 12 years of relationship, I would say, when I say I love this person, I meant something very different. Because in 3 years, you're in a honeymoon phase. In 12 years, you can say you have to get to know that person some. And now when you say that you love that person after have walking with that person a good bit of a journey. You have seen the good and the bad, and you have come to the conclusion that even with all the bad and all the limitations, that person is someone that you admire, someone that you respect, with all that person's goodness and beauty, and also all that person's humanity. So it would be wise if we would spend a little bit of time with people before we rush into marriages with them. So a lot of times, something that happens is people rushing into marriages for the wrong reasons, and then dealing with a number of problems, troubles, and sufferings because they didn't take it. It's already, there's no guarantee for marriage, right? Marriage is a lot of work, a very worthwhile type of work, but you can take some steps, preparatory steps that will help you to enter it in the right time, in the right frame of mind, with the right resources and understanding of what you are signing up with, right? So the spirits tell us that so many marriages happen for the wrong reasons, and we end up creating suffering and problems that, again, were not necessarily in our reincarnatory plan, because we love to say, "Oh, I'm going to this because oh, it was my reincarnation was planned." Mm-mm, mm-mm. Most of the suffering that we undergo currently has to do with our character, our behavior, and our choices today, not from our past lives, but today. A great amount and percentage of our misery is the result of the choices that we are doing in the present moment. And this is written in the gospel according to Spiritism. Now, another thing that we can think about when it comes to happiness is, where is it that we are placing our happiness? Perhaps we're placing our happiness in the wrong places. So there's a recent survey with millennials where they asked millennials what were the most important goals in life. So if I ask you guys right there, so I can take a quick break here, what is the most important goal in your life? What would you say? Let me see two or three answers. What is the most important goal in your life? This, I think, would be especially for the young the youth that is there at this time. What is your health? Okay. Anything else? What is your goal in life? To become successful spiritually, materially, mentally, and emotionally. Family. Okay, Sylvia Moore, I know she's not that young anymore. She's just as young as I am. Okay. Internal peace. Good. You know what? You guys are way, way too advanced and spiritualized already. But for this particular survey, one of the answers was actually to be rich. To be rich. That was the main goal. 80% did say that. Another 50% said that they actually wanted to be famous. And the majority of the millennials associated hard work with happiness because they were told, even either from the time they were born or from the time that they arrived to this country, that if they work really hard, that they would be happy. Because obviously they would be able to afford and to buy things and to have a comfortable life. And there's a very, very strong association of happiness with that. Okay. And if we were in a conference, we could open the room for discussion about that. Does money bring happiness? Yes or no? Right? So it's always a very, very hot topic, but we won't have time for that. So let's move on. I want to bring you another really, really interesting study, a longitudinal study from Harvard. It's called Harvard Study of Adult Development. So Harvard researchers decided that they wanted to study human happiness. Okay, Lucy says money to some extent can buy happiness. There has been a study. Yes, to some extent, yes. And we'll get back to it in a second. Um, so this study from Harvard, right? Obviously, it's a lot of years, and they have had different researchers taking over on the course of the years. And they studied 724 young men, two different groups. One group was sophomore in Harvard, and the other group was a group of young men from the poorest and most disadvantaged 17, I can say this word. So a very, very poor neighborhood in Boston in the 1930s. So sophomore in Harvard and young men from the poorest neighborhoods in Boston. So they compared those two groups. What they did is they interviewed those young men. They interviewed their parents, and they ran a whole bunch of medical exams, and they followed them through the course of their lives, and without, of course, knowing what or how they would turn out. And some of them became the United States. One of them, few of them became, and so they were all kinds of different professions, all kind of different lives. Some of them became alcoholic. A few developed schizophrenia, and some of them ascended the social ladder from the very bottom to the very top. Some did the opposite journey and descended socially. And every 2 years, what they would do is they would send questionnaires to these men. They would actually go also to their homes. They would speak to their children. They would speak to their wives. They would actually film these men speaking to their wives about very trouble or difficult situations. And they would run a series of medical exams from blood work all the way to CT scan of their heads. So just imagine the amount of data and the amount of information that was obtained by tracking the life of these men, 724 men from the entire course of their lives. So what do you think that they learned from this research? What do you think that they found out about happiness when they track the life of these men? What is the one factor that was the key factor for happiness, regardless whether they were in Harvard, whether they were living in very poor neighborhoods? Some of these neighborhoods didn't even have running water at the time. Take a guess. Faith, wrong. Love, social connections. Oh my goodness. We will get to it at the very end of our lecture. But you guys are very, very hot. You know the game Cold and Hot, right? So you are, I think, Hope. Okay, all right. Good, very, very good guesses. All right. So I'll tell you what they learned, that happiness is not. Happiness is not about power. It's not about money. It's not about youth. It's not about beauty. And it's not about hard work. And it's really cool because, this is a study that's happening right now. And the spirits told us, right, Kardec in 1800s, in question 926, that first of all, the wealthiest person on earth is the one with the fewer needs. I think that is a sentence that's extremely, extremely powerful. Something that you should put in our refrigerators and look at it every day. The wealthiest person on earth is the one with the fewest needs, right? And then in the Gospel, chapter 5, item 20, they will say that neither wealth, power, or youth are essential for happiness. And they go on and say, not even those three factors combined are essential for happiness. Wealth, power, or youth. Neither are essential for happiness. So, okay, at this point, we get what happiness is not. Of course, the money helps with comfort and makes things easier. There has been some research that shows, though, that there is a cutoff point for money where after that certain amount, it makes no more difference. So, I was just reading this morning on a paper about the wealthy people in South and Central America. They're capable of getting an airplane and coming to America to be vaccinated. I mean, we cannot argue that money can help It's you have a few individuals who are depressed, having the money to access a good psychologist, a good psychiatrist, to pay for good health insurance. It's a different game here. We cannot deny that money does bring a level of comfort, but money does bring a great other source of challenges, especially when we are trying to learn on this planet to use the material as a means and not as an end. In other words, to understand that everything that we have does not belong to us, and to find the balance between what is really necessary to our happiness and superfluous in face of a world where people are struggling so hard. So it has its incredible share of challenges. Um, in learning to be done. But that it's not uh, the essence of our talk today, so we're not going to go that route. But I'm going to end with this first part with a quick story by Socrates, where he was. The story says that he was walking in the streets of Athens and going through this free market, and he's looking at things, and very attentively. So a merchant comes to him and says, "Sir, what are you looking at? Is there's, can I help you with anything?" And he says, "I'm just looking at the amount of things that I don't need to be happy." And I like this story very much because it's pretty much the opposite of what we are doing, right? Especially in our society here, where we are so stimulated to purchase, to buy things, to consume, and we are always looking for what is the next thing that I need. Whereas he was like, I'm looking at all these things that I actually don't need to be happy. And I'm since then I've been like, okay, maybe that's how I should be looking at things, as an exercise, as a challenge, instead of looking, what is the next thing that I need to buy, right? So good enough. So what can bring us happiness? And let's go to uh, this other part of our lecture now, because the whole point is to talk about being happy and maximizing happiness and the relative happiness that we are able to experience. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is different types of happiness, and I'm gonna differentiate something here. There's something that psychologists call the butterfly happiness. Think about a butterfly. When a butterfly lands on your hand unexpectedly, and you look at the butterfly, and you start like being amazed by all the little um, characteristics of the butterfly. You start to look at it. The moment you start to enjoy it, that's it. It's gone. You blink, and the butterfly is gone. So you want to keep the butterfly. You want to like really enjoy the beauty of that being, but it's gone. So when I ask about happiness, right, there were a lot of things that were said, and many of them are truly happiness, but they are butterfly moments happiness. Okay, so they come and they go, right? So and when we talk about happiness, there is an entire research on like different feelings they're associated with happiness. So you can think about, for example, when you graduate. It's May, it's graduation. There's a lot of happy people out there. And this is the type of happiness that comes from accomplishment, from hard work. A lot of students, they're receiving honors. And again, that's awesome. You feel super happy. You put so much hard work and you're being recognized. So recognition is a source of happiness. But then there's a mother somewhere giving birth to a child, and she's also happy. But that comes from a whole different um, experience of happiness. It's a different type of hard work, bearing a child for 9 months, right? And delivering the child. And with that feeling of happiness, there is amazement, there is wonder, there is excitement. How happy you are. My daughter and my son are super happy right now because in 2 weeks they are going to North Carolina for 3 weeks to be on a camp. So they talk about nothing else. We spend the entire day in Sawgrass Mall, big mall down here in Miami, shopping for the mountains. And believe me, they were so happy. They are so happy. And that's going to last for another 2 weeks. And then there will be 3 weeks in the mountains, super happy. They're going to come back. The moment they go back to school, they're going to be unhappy. So it will last for a good solid month, but it will go away at some point. And then, we have, think about someone who's waiting for a diagnosis and the test result comes and says, no, you don't have cancer. It's negative. So there's the joy of relief. So that's another type of joy. So you see, the happiness and joy, it's a whole bunch of different experiences that go into it. So the type of joy that we're going to be talking about of happiness, it's not butterfly. It's not something that comes and goes. We want to be talking about something that's a little bit more enduring, something that's a little bit more fulfilling. Because take the experience for my kids, right? When that's done, believe me, they're going to start planning their next trip. They're going to say, Mommy, are we going to Brazil at the end of the year? And then they spend several months waiting for the next enjoyable experience. How about a type of joy that can be something that is, we can keep in a more lasting and enduring way? I have a question here. Is butterfly happiness also the reason why we cannot achieve complete happiness? Um, in part, because it has to be with the focus. And that's where we're going to get to. So give me a few more minutes, right? So psychologists, so looking into science today, looking into psychologists, they say that happiness is not a goal to be pursued, but it's the result of something greater. So instead of thinking, what do you want? What is your goal in life? I want to be happy, right? So the idea is that happiness is going to be the result of something else, something greater, something bigger. Another important idea is, can you be happy while having sad moments? Can you be happy if your life has conflicts? Yes, Lucy says yes. Has difficulties, right? Can happiness be associated, or happiness is this state of life? I don't know, being at the beach in Miami Beach. I'm going to use Miami because where I am in Key West, right? With in front of the ocean and, paradise like, right? So can we be happy in our daily lives? And so what the psychologists talk about, some of the research talks about, is happiness being seen people who are very much like campers. Now, is there anyone in the audience who likes to camp? Now, me neither. Me neither. I see Daniela saying no, and I'm like, no, 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 not me. Lucy does not like either, and not a lot at the Hilton. That is a great answer. That is a great answer. Yes, I feel similar. Like I love being out there, as long as I have a nice hotel to go back at the very end of the day. But getting back to the psychologists, what they say is that happiness, a more enduring type of happiness, you see on people who are like campers. What do campers do? And I'm not talking about these fancy camps of nowadays where everything is there for you. That's fake camping. I'm talking real camping. So you go out in the woods, right? And you don't have a solid wall. You might be dealing with mosquitoes. You don't have a toilet to flush things. And you were dealing with all the adversities of nature, and you're still able to enjoy it. You are happy because you have developed what they're gonna call this distress tolerance, which is the ability to deal with the limitations and still draw from the limitations and the good, a great experience without moving away from the uncomfortable feelings. So, people who are able to be like campers in life, who are able to face the challenges, who are able to see the goodness beyond the challenges. So, yes, you were there with your limitations, but you are admiring the sunrise, you are admiring the sunset, you are laughing with the difficulties, as Matt is saying, right? So, what happens is those are able to experience the type of happiness that is not the butterfly moment type of happiness. They're able to enjoy life. And the Dalai Lama and the Desmond Tutu, they wrote a book together about joy, where they say something that is in line with the psychologists. And I love to see how, whether you're talking about science, whether you're talking about religion, other religions outside of spiritism, there's a convergence of thoughts, and you see how things are progressing, and sometimes the words are a little different, but the ideas are like exactly the same. So here they're going to talk about state of joy being something that does not eliminate the frustrations of life, does not avoid painful tears, but it is that state that allows us to cry more easily and also to smile more easily. Joy, uh, joy is the ability that people have to go through and allow suffering to enrich us instead of destroying us. So whether you're having scientists, they're talking about a more resilient type of joy found in camping, whether it's you have the Dalai Lama or Desmond Tutu telling us that joy does not eliminate conflict, does not eliminate stress, but it is a deep feeling that allow us to go through all of these. Yes, you cry more freely without the pressure of being perfect. It gives you the freedom to be human, gives the freedom, the joy to be beautifully imperfect, but also to appreciate the growth that you have in that moment. So yes, you cry more easily, you smile more easily, and the difficulties of life, instead of destroying us, they end up enriching your living and making you stronger, more resilient, or a better camper. How do you know if you are a camper in life? That is a great question that I would have to think about. What is the answer? Are you, I guess it's really an inner disposition, right? Like I was talking here about this concept from the Dalai Lama. So, are you embracing the adversities? And when an adversity comes, we also have adverse, so-called adverse feelings. We might have anger, we might have frustration. Those are feelings um, that speak to you about where you are. What do you do when you have those difficult feelings? Do you shut down? Do you walk away? Do you go and study more, work more, do more so you can feel less? So if you're shying away, if you're moving away from the difficult feelings, you're not being the best camper. You go into that fake type of camping where there's some shower out there for you, and a toilet somewhere. So a true camper, he's not going to shy away from the adversity. He's not going to shy away from the difficult feelings, right? He faces the feelings forward. And that's another lecture in itself, that we have a lot of work done in the area of feelings and how to deal with feelings. But I think, there are different level of campers, like there are different level of trails. Some of us are doing like beginners trails, some of us are hiking a little higher. So, but it's all good as long as we're moving, as long as we are on a trail. Any type of trail is good than no trail. All right. So there are three. Remember, I was talking about all these different experiences of joy and happiness. There are three experiences that the researchers tells us that they are more connected with these lasting feeling of joy, and they are gratitude. They are the ability to rejoice with your own success, your own accomplishments, and the accomplishments of others, and what they call spiritual radiance, which is joy from well being and benevolence. So, these three states of gratitude, of rejoicing with our accomplishment and others, and this joy that comes from well being and benevolence are three experiences that will grant us a much more lasting experience of joy and happiness. And I ask you, what is it that these three experiences have in common? And the answer is relating. They are relational. When we talk about gratitude, that means that we have a very, very deep, strong relation with God and with life. So when you are deeply connected to God and to life, to the meaning of life, you develop inside this state that's not gratitude for something that was given to you and gratitude that correlates with retribution. Ah, you give me this, I'm grateful, here, I'll give you that. No, it is a deeper gratitude. When you understand that everything in life is happening in order to promote you, that the universe is on your side and not against you, higher plan that is put together, and everything is meticulously organized to help you to win, then whatever comes is appreciated. Whatever comes is welcome. Whatever comes, you understand that whether you like it or not, it is a blessing. Sometimes it's disguised, but it is a blessing. So you start to like every day, whether it's raining, shining sun, snowing, there is a beauty, there is a meaning, there is a purpose. So it's your relationship with life, it's your relationship with God, and of course with humanity. When you talk about rejoicing, is loving yourself. Yes, we are so limited. We have so many difficulties, but we are also moving forward. And it's important that we are proud of our success. So we always hear in spiritism, pride is bad, pride is bad. No, there is something called positive pride, and we should tap ourselves on our shoulders when we accomplish something that is the result of our hard work. We should be proud, we should rejoice, and we should rejoice with the accomplishment of others, because our neighbor is not our competitor. That's a mind frame that we need to change. There is a place for everybody to thrive, for everybody to be successful. So when we truly rejoice with someone else's accomplishments, that also is a source of inner joy for us. And benevolence, of course, benevolence, the more you give, right? The more you're able to give to others, the more you understand that you are an unlimited source of love and goodness yourself. So that is a powerful, powerful source of happiness. All right. So if we go back to Harvard right now, I will give you the final answer. And the final answer, what they found, that these men, the one that were the happiest one, were the ones who had good, healthy relationships. So whoever wrote relationships on the chat, you just won the contest. Yes, relationships, relating. Not only good relationships make these men happier, it also made them healthier. So there is a health component and there is a happy component. These men They were skilled in the art of relating, and they value relationships. So, a question for you to answer in your mind: how is today the quality of your relationships? Don't answer and don't get distressed, because we can all make things better, right? So, one huge component of relating is empathy. Is empathy. I was and acknowledging that the other person might have a different experience than you have. I want to share with you a quick story that happened in my family. My nephew is was having a very difficult time. He's an 8-year-old boy who was struggling with depression. And my brother, his father, who is a wonderful human being. He's much better than I am. He's much more loving. The man is pure feeling, but he's not very psychologically minded. So because he's not hasn't had a chance to develop a more psychologically minded mind. So and he's like, the kid's sad, the kid's depressed. And his answer to him is like, "Why are you sad, my son? We have such a happy life." Okay, so I'm sure that he said that with all the love that characterizes his being. But what would be a little bit more of a sophisticated answer, right? Are you sad? Tell me why. Let me understand what is making you sad. What experiences are you having? So when you tell someone else that why are you like this, we're so happy, is completely dismissive of the other person's experience. It's like you shouldn't be feeling this way because look, you have mommy, you have daddy, you have things, we live in a house. But what is missing in these interactions is curiosity. Curiosity to understand what is it going on in your world, in your experience that I'm not seeing, that I haven't been able to relate. So part of the skills of relating is actually being able to be curious and empathic and being able to understand that people see things differently. They have a different journey, they have a different experience, and opening ourselves to the other person, being curious, trying to understand, trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Those are little things, or not so little, that can make us more skilled in the art of relating, which is key for our happiness. In spiritism, where is it that we go to improve in the art of relating? Right? So if we want to maximize our happiness, and if happiness is in relationships, we should be investing in our relationships. We need to look, one way of look at what we need to do, how can we do things better, is to look at our relationships. I think I have 5 more minutes or 1 more minute. I'm not sure that right now, but I'm going to use 5 minutes if no one says that I can't. 5 minutes, perfect. So I'm right on time, okay? Because I'm very disciplined. I try to stick to the rules. Okay, so I will use my 5 minutes though. Okay, so how can we maximize it, right? So science is telling us that, Harvard's telling us that is relationships, more relationships or deep relationships. You know what? That's a great question, Arthur. The study found that was not about the number of relationships, but the quality of relationships. So it's not about having 2,357 friends on Facebook or social media. It's about having a few ones and have good, deep relationships. It's about, and one factor that they talk about that comes to mind right now is having relationships that you can actually count on. So that you have what, psychologists will call true attachment, which means that you know that if something happens, you have one, two, three people that you can count on no matter what, no matter how close you're talking to them. You know that there's people that will be there for you. This is the type of relationship that we are talking about. So your parents, your close friends, and family. Someone put family in the chat. So this is really the core of happiness on earth. And I try to tell my children, if you have friends, you have everything in life, because you give yourself in these relationships, and you're gonna have everything that you need. So in any case, where does spiritism, where and when spiritism comes in place, right? So when we study the divine laws, the natural laws in question 614 of the Spirit's book, the spirits are going to tell us that this law, the divine law, is the only necessary for our happiness. We don't need any other thing but to follow the divine laws, that we are only unhappy when we move away from them, and that these divine laws will tell us what to do and what not to do. So here we go. What to do and what not to do. If you study the divine laws a little bit more, what we should be doing, because it is the key for our happiness, the spirits are also going to tell us that it operates at the material level, and science studies that, and it operates at the level of the soul. And precisely regulating our relationship, telling us how we should be relating to one another. And for that, we have the moral laws. Okay, so third part of the Spirit's book, the moral laws. We should be digging into those laws, understanding what they're telling us, because it is the practice of those laws in our relationship that will actually grant us maximize happiness on our planet. So we have those laws where in our conscience, right? We have missionaries, they're sent from time to time to remind us about these laws in all parts of the globe. And we have Jesus, who is our main reference. How did he treat others? Have you ever seen Jesus gossiping about anyone? Have you ever seen Jesus diminishing anyone? Have you ever seen Jesus separating anyone? Devaluing a human being. In every single interaction, no matter who was, his actions were to lift his neighbor. His actions were to give people who were lost, who were feeling bad about themselves, dignity again. His work was one to promote human beings, to value them, to dignify them. So when we look at our relationships and we look at the world, we can start by saying, what can I do? How can I help? Right? How can I make things better in my life, in my relationship? And we have these very, very important references to follow. I know I have literally 1 minute, but I will finish with this very, very quick story that I find so powerful. I'm going to be very brief. There was a man in Brazil who was, his name is Jerônimo Mendonça. He was a spiritist. He, at the age of 17, he was young. He liked to play soccer. He acquired rheumatoid arthritis. He became paralyzed. But in addition to that, he became blind. He spent his entire life literally stuck to a bed. That bed traveled the entire country of Brazil with him, and he opened 3 or more spirit centers in Brazil. He lectured all over the country. He assisted thousands and thousands of people, completely paralyzed and blind on a bed. One day, a reporter from the news asked him what happiness would be for him. And after thinking for a second, he said, happiness would be if I could turn to the side, because he couldn't. And when I heard this story and I thought of him, I will say to all of us, happiness will be the day that we too can leave the paralysis of self centeredness and turn to the side. And we go back to that self centeredness. Because self centeredness makes us look forward only, our way or no way, our way, my way, or the highway, right? So we have a moral paralysis. And what life invites us to do is to be able to regain some movement and understand that our happiness is very, very tightly related to our ability to turn sideways and to see the people who are next to us for who they are, for what they need, for the journey that they have traveled, without feeling that because they're different, they're worth less or they're less than us in any way, shape, or form. Being curious about the world around us, being curious about the person next to us, not fighting, but trying to understand, trying to connect, trying to reach out, being curious about someone's experience, someone's pain. If someone is being arrogant, definitely that person is defending. There's a tremendous amount of pain underneath, just like we carry so much pain in our own defense mechanisms. So happiness is about relating. Relating is about movement. Is about turning to the side. Is about seeing, being able to see more and more people, being able to open our hearts and make our hearts this huge living room, big room that can allow more and more people to come in, to feel welcome, to feel loved, and to feel worthy by being next to us. So thank you guys. This is it. I hope there was a good reflection.
It was excellent reflection, Susanna. I cannot thank you enough for the, as usual, thought provoking, but profoundly consoling and illuminating talk. A lot of things for us to reflect on. It was a moment of deep reflection for me, and I'm sure for everyone else who was listening. And for that, we are deeply thankful. Thank you so much. Um, I will now invite our dear friend Ana Castro to walk us through the final prayer and irradiation, and then Claudinha is going to make the final announcements. Ana, with you.
All right, so dear friends, let's close our eyes, relax, feeling the comfort of a body and mind that is preparing to plunge into the deepest peace. Let's now invite our Lord Jesus, the good spirits, the guardian spirits of this group, and each one of us to be here to guide and protect us. Lord Jesus, first and foremost, we thank you for our lives. We thank you for this day so graciously given to us. We thank you for the opportunity of being here today, seeking your message full of light. Open our heart to hear your voice. Open our heart to commune with you more deeply. Open the doors that need to be opened and close the doors that need to be closed. Help us to value and appreciate those we are gathered with. Give us the necessary skills and insights for the best understanding we can possibly achieve now, given our humble condition as long journey apprentices. Lord Jesus, you came into the world as one of us and suffered as we do. As all the suicidal, prisoners, homeless, abandoned and forgotten, the hungers, the unemployed and desperate ones go through the trials of life, help them to realize that you are with them at all times in all things. and that your loving grace enfolds them now and will continue to do for the eternity. Guide them towards better health, better choices, and give them the wisdom to identify those you've placed around them to help them get better. Dear Jesus, divine physician and healer of the sick, we turn to you in this time of distress and illness across the whole globe due to this pandemic. So, Jesus, alleviate our sorrow with your love and grant us the grace and strength to accept this burden. Dear God, we place our worries in your hands. We place our sick under your care and humbly ask that you restore your servants to health again. Above all, grant us the grace to acknowledge your will and know that whatever you do for the love of us. Dear Lord, in the name of humanity, we surrender to you everything that we are and everything that we are striving to be. We open the deepest recesses of our hearts and invite you to be with us and follow us everywhere we go. We offer Jesus our lives, hearts, minds, bodies, souls, and spirits. We surrender to you our past, present, and future. We ask you to take hold over every aspect of our lives and wash us clean. Lord Jesus, may humanity finally discover your forgiveness and know your peace. Father, we are here also praying for all people included in our prayer list, for the ones in our circle of family or friends, and others that cross our mind now. May your healing touch alleviate their sufferings. Jesus, with just one touch from your almighty hand, you have healed the sick and raised the dead. How powerful is your redeeming love! How great was your sacrifice to go before us and bring forgiveness and hope. By your stripes, we ask for healing of our planet Earth, our oceans, our forests, all the land you generously gave us to grow and prosper, all nations, all humanity. Standing within your reign and rule, we ask for restoration. May life and wellness grow in fullness until it overflows. You hold us safe, Lord. We trust in you. With much respect in our hearts, we ask permission to close today's work. In Jesus' name and the security of his embrace, we pray.
So be it. Thank you very much, Anna. Um, we'll now turn to Claudinha
Está
for
me
the
ouvindo?
final. Yes, we are. We can
Estão me
hear you.
ouvindo?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you.
All right. Great. Well, thank you so much, Suzana, for being here with us today. Thank you, Du. Thank you, Ana Claudia. And thank all of our friends. Now, just for the last couple minutes, we just have a few announcements. For our youth that's attending the study with us today and all of our friends here. Suzana, she does have a YouTube channel. This information will be posted in our social media and also on our website under the message board. And Suzana has a lot of work in English. And she has a happy life under her playlist, also with a lot of other videos. It's very inspiring, and we invite everyone to subscribe to her channel. Next, we want to talk about, we talked about this the last couple weeks, so we are going to be closed. We're not going to have any activities on June 6th. that Sunday, so that everyone can participate on the next, is the 15th U.S. Spiritist Federation Symposium. It will be virtual again this year due to the COVID, and it will be in English. So it's going to be June 6th and June 5th and June 6th. Our dear friend Suzana also is going to be part of the symposium. She will be on the roundtable discussion on June 5th at 3 p.m. And she will also be on the questions and answers session right after that at 4:45. And we do have some of our own members. Eduardo Haddad will be on June 6th at 3 p.m. Spiritism, Ask Me Anything. So you guys get your questions ready for Eduardo that day. And our dear Leonardo Haddad will be part of the youth panel, talking about youth's take on mediumship. So this is our announcements for this week. Don't forget to follow us on the Facebook and Instagram. And thank you again all for the study today. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Claudine. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, Suzana. Again, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week. God bless you. Bye-bye.